Hey guys, this is part 3, which is the last part of my 2018 Heroescon haul. This is the one where I'm going to show the older stuff that I was able to pick up, but not just yet. Still got a few more books to go through before I get to the old stuff. Anyway, I picked up DC's First Wave, The Spirit number 14. I've always liked the Spirit as a character. I've read quite a bit of the old newspaper strip from the 40s and 50s, and it's it's Will Eisner. I mean, you can't go wrong with Will Eisner. So I picked these up. I think might have got these for 50 cents a piece. Also picked up number 15 and number 17. Picked that one up because it had a black and white cover. Anyway, it just kind of drew my attention. Picked this one up. It's from Dynamite. It's number 2, and it features the Devil and the Flame, which, if I'm not mistaken, the character that is portrayed on the cover as the Devil, this guy in the red, is a duplicate of the old Daredevil character that was put out by Lev Gleason back in the 40s. But anyway, this book is actually called Project Superpowers or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, thought it had a cool cover, so picked it up. Justice League The Nail, book 2. I'm pretty sure I've got book 1 laying around here somewhere. So I think that leaves me with needing book number 3. Oops. Picked these up really cheap. I think these might have been out of a $5 for $1 box or something like that. Anyway, it's Avengers West Coast number 65. Why did I pick it up? Well, because this story arc features one of my favorite villains, Ultron. I think it's a four-part story, and I was lucky enough to pick up all 4 parts. That's number 66, 67, and 68. Also picked up a couple of issues of Albion, which was a limited series put out back in the early 2000s, I think, by Wildstorm. Anyway, it's an Alan Moore story. I've got the first couple of issues laying around here somewhere, and wanted to try to pick up a few more to, well, heck, to read them. Also got issue number 5, if I didn't say it, which I'm old and I forget. The one before it, this is issue 4. Found this in a 50-cent bin. Kind of shocked me. Adventure Comics number 459. Not so much, well, I mean, the fact that it was in there was interesting for 50 cents. But the fact that this copy is so clean, and the only thing I really see on it is a little crease right here. I mean, this is a pretty well maintained book. Anyway, also in that 50-cent bin, found Astonishing Tales number 5. I mean, it's pretty obvious looking at this cover why I picked this up. I mean, you got Doctor Doom fighting the Red Skull. I mean, who can pass that up for 50 cents? This one I actually ended up getting for free because I bought some other books from the guy and he just kind of threw this in. Anyway, it's Strange Tales number 178. I mean, it's coverless, but it's complete. Great artwork, pretty good story from what I could tell, so didn't really lose much. Got this one for 50 cents. Yeah, I know it's got a big chunk out of the top cover, but hey, for 50 cents, why not? And plus, it's from 1949. I also picked this up. It's a Dale comic, by the way. Might be one of the 4-color. I think it's like number 213, 214, something like that. Anyway, picked it up because this cartoon actually won some awards, and this is of course, comic book adaptation of that particular cartoon. So, picked it up just for that. Picked up Carrie Drake, Detective. This is actually a Harvey Comics publication from the early 50s. Harvey, as you know, if you're familiar with comics, is known for characters like Casper and Wendy the Witch and Richie Rich and Hot Stuff, the little devil. But this was a different time period for Harvey. Back during this time, they were putting out some pretty hard-boiled books. This particular one is kind of based on, I believe it is based on a comic strip. It was in the newspapers at the time by a gentleman named Alfred Andriola. Now, I could be wrong on that, so if anybody knows any better, just let me know in the comments. But anyway, at the time, Harvey was also putting out books like The Black Cat, which was kind of controversial. And if I'm not mistaken, there were some panels from The Black Cat that were cited in Seduction of the Innocent by Frederick Wortham. Any of you know about comic history know I don't have to tell you what that was, but in a nutshell, it led to the demise of EC Comics and most of the horror comics, which Harvey was putting out a good many horror comics at that time too, which they weren't on the order of the EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt, things of that nature. But they were still pretty daring for the time. Got this one for $1. Combat KC number 25 from Timely or Atlas Comics. You just don't find a whole lot of these older Timely comics that have covers on them. Yeah, I mean, I know somebody colored in his eyes and all that crap, but I mean, for $1, I mean, hey, why not? Got a copy of Our Fighting Forces number 35, and no, I did not pay $25 for this book. I think I might have paid, it was either $1 or $2 for it. And speaking of Daredevil, as I did a while ago, picked up a copy of Lev Gleason's Daredevil comics number 101 from the early 50s. I've got a couple of issues of this stuck in one of the boxes somewhere, and I didn't pay $20 for it if you're looking at that. I think I might have paid, I don't know, $2 or $3 for it. But anyway, they do contain some hero stuff in them, but by this time the book mainly centered around the little wise guys who were Daredevil's sidekicks, more or less. Picked up a copy of Lev Gleason's Boy Comics from 1948, I believe is where this one came from. Anyway, this one centers around this character, CB, which was actually the initials of the gentleman who was the editor, Charles Biro. It's kind of on the order of 1010. If you're familiar with that French comic, it's action adventure. Heck, I can't think of the name of the comic strip now from the 30s and 40s, but anyway, there's an American comic strip this was kind of based off of too. Now this one for $2. Herbie number 2 from ACG. Herbie is one of those books that if you find a copy of it, it is usually really expensive. I've been trying to get a couple of copies, a couple of issues of this series for several years now, but it seemed like every time I found one, they were out of sight, like $40. So when I found this one, I was very happy, especially with it being an early issue, number 2. Also picked up Gangbusters, number 5. This was a DC comic from the late 40s. I did not pay $16 for it, I assure you. I might have paid $4, maybe. But I just like the old artwork. I like the old stories. It's kind of a window into a time period that I'm not old enough to remember. But strangely enough, this one, and this is the first one I've seen like this, has across the top here, published in Canada. So this might actually be the Canadian version of this, which it's a little rarer to find those too. But anyway, I didn't see that when I bought it. I only saw it after I got it home. But anyway, so picked that one up on the cheap too. And lastly, another old Atlas comic, All True Crime, number 49. This one is from the early 50s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe late 40s, can't remember. Again, you just don't find very many of these old Atlas or Timely comics cheap. I didn't pay $10 for it, but anyway, I know it's complete, and it's got a cover. It's naturally, it's old and it's got some issues, but hey, for what I paid for it, I'm happy. Again, I love old books, and so picked these up. Anyway, that's the last of the comments, but I wanted to tell a story, more or less a commentary. When I go to these shows, sometimes I go to get things signed. Most of the time I go to get things signed. And 99% of the creators that I've met at these shows, I was around the art majors in college, so I know that sometimes the art majors are unique individuals, let's put it that way. So I really don't think too much about it, the eccentricities that some may have. But like I said, 99% of the ones I've met were nice people, appreciated the fact that you appreciated their work, and would thank you, for coming by and everything. But then there is that 1%. We've all encountered these people. They act like they are doing you a favor by them even being there. But this one that I'm about to comment on, I'm not going to mention the person's name. If anybody wants to find out who this person is, well, I'll give you some clues as to who it is. I'm not going to come right out and say it. This particular gentleman, when I saw him, he was sitting at a table with his wife, and he wasn't doing anything. He was just sitting there chatting with his wife. So because he had no line, I thought to myself, okay, well, I can go up and get this signed and get out of the way. I have one book that I wanted this fellow to sign. We got lots of his work, just this one particular book is what I wanted to sign. Anyway, it was the first appearance of a fairly recent, well, I say fairly recent, in the past 25 years, Batman character. As a matter of fact, this particular character took over for Batman for a very short period of time in the mid-late 90s. Anyway, this gentleman worked on this book, worked on this first appearance. So I had gotten the artist to sign it, and so I wanted to get this guy to sign it and complete it. Well, anyway, I got in line. A couple of guys got in line behind me. I spoke to the gentleman, said good morning. He never looked up. He acknowledged that I was there. But guys, I stood there for 25 minutes. He wasn't doing anything, and he ignored me. I even made a donation to his charity, and he saw me make a donation to his charity. I mean, I put, several dollars in the bucket for Hero Initiative, and so did the fellows behind me. And I figured, after a little while, his wife was gonna, wake this guy up and say, hey, you got these guys standing here, want to get something signed, and would kind of encourage him to do that. Well, she never did. Well, she didn't. She just got up and walked away. Anyway, he just sat there and ignored us for 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, I just got aggravated, and I didn't say anything to him. I just left. As a creator of a book, if you're coming to a comic convention, you're coming to meet fans, or at least that's what most people expect. And we as fans spend our money to buy books that have your work in it. I mean, we don't expect you to give us stuff for free. We don't expect anything, anything out of the ordinary, but just, if we got one or two books to get signed, just be gracious. Even you don't have to speak to us, just a good morning, a nod of the head, and sign the book and let us go on our merry way. I mean, but just to ignore the fans, to me, it makes me wonder, why the heck are you even here? Why did you bother making the trip from wherever it is you live to come to this convention, to ignore the very people that have made you what you are by purchasing your work? I mean, it's beyond me. I mean, I've been going to comic book conventions for for over 25 years. I have never had that happen, ever. And I don't get it. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced anything like that. I know that we as fans try not to denigrate our heroes, but in this particular case, I felt like this needed to be mentioned because, from what I understand from a couple other people who were at the con, he did them the same way. I mean, if you're going to be a jerk, just stay home and be a jerk. Don't come to a convention and disappoint fans who have paid to get in and who have really wanted to meet you, and then you just act like a complete and utter turd when they do. Anyway, that's my rant. Comment, subscribe, like, whatever. Anyway, hopefully I'll be making another one of these in a couple of months. We'll see. I've got some plans, but don't know if I'll be able to make them come to pass. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me and through my long-winded diatribe. Have a good one.